Hi there, welcome back to the channel. You may notice the car is looking a little bit lower than it was last time. We had a busy day yesterday. We took the car with the dolly down the driveway and then lifted the body off of the dolly and onto the chassis. So let's talk a little bit about how we did that. I'm Roy Farr and this is my build of a Gardner Douglas 427 Mark IV. So, why are we putting the body on the chassis now when actually the car goes off to paint in February? And actually it's only the body that goes off to paint. It would seem to be a bit pointless. Why go through all the trouble of mounting the body on the chassis right now when I'm only going to take it off again in February? It's currently just tipped over into January. So why go through all that effort? Well, the main thing is when you take the car off, the body specifically off to paint, you really want to have every hole in the body that you need cut or drilled ready before it goes. Needless to say, if it comes back from paint and you then have to cut a hole in the car and you get something wrong, you're into fiberglass repair, filler repair, and then guess what? Taking it back to paint again. So really you've got to get everything done first. And the next key job to have done before we go off to paint is getting the roll hoops fitted. And the roll hoops, unlike some other Cobras, most of them are pretty good, but unlike some other Cobras, they actually go through the whole bodywork and they bolt onto the back of the chassis. So when they go all the way down onto the back of the chassis, you've got to have the body mounted to the chassis, and that means you've got to have it all aligned and actually sitting one on top of the other. So that's what we got up to yesterday, and I'll show you what we did in a second to do that. But given that I might have to take the body off the chassis a few times, and it's a fairly heavy beastie, it's not a light body by any means, but it is strong and it is sturdy. You need 4 people, ideally, to lift the weight of this thing on and off. So I've got a few good friends. Paul over the road, my neighbour, very, very helpful, happy to help. And my good mate John came over yesterday and I roped in the offspring, young Ryan, he came along and helped as well. We got it all done, but if we're going to have to do this several times, I figured it's probably not such a great idea to keep rolling all of my friends in to help, and it's difficult to coordinate everybody's time. So I thought, why not see if I can invest in a couple of small lifts to make the job a little bit easier? Then I might be able to do it myself in future. So let's have a look at those. So this is what I bought. These are called Kwik Lifts, as you can probably see on the side there. This is basically a small mobile or portable lift that you can run off of a small compressor. You can see the hydraulic lines there running underneath the racking onto a small motor with a little oil tank next to it. You fill that up with hydraulic oil and runs off regular 240 volt mains. You don't need any special 3-phase electricity or anything like that. Just runs straight off a regular 3-pin plug. And in essence, what I thought I'd be doing with this is being able to put this under the body in between the wheels. I could then lift the lifts all the way up to their utmost position, and then when we bring the body back we can drop them onto the lift, and then we can use the lift to slowly lower the body onto the chassis. At least that was the plan. So this is the 3200 lift, picked up from, if you can see that there, just come around there, Equipment for Garages. These guys have got a bunch of these different lifts in stock, and they come in different sizes to fit different sorts of vehicles. Now this is the 3200, which means it's almost 2 meters long from side to side. You can probably tell there, but basically what happens is it's like on a cantilever mechanism. The piston down here pulls, and then this side starts to move up and away rather than straight up off the ground. So it comes up as a bit of an angle. Now I needed one this long because the preferred way of jacking the car up is actually having this under the chassis, which sits in the centre. This is a backbone chassis, remember. So all of this under here is bodywork, and it's thick, honeycomb floor. But in the centre, there's the chassis. Now, when the car's fully built, it'll obviously have the engine and gearbox in here, and that's the bulk of the weight. And that will be bolted to the chassis. So you really want to be lifting that from the chassis. So this guy, the idea was it would be long enough to go all the way under the car and pick up on the engine mounting points at the front, under here, and at the back, underneath the suspension pickups. Now I've actually got another piece that I haven't got out of the box yet called a crossbeam, which will connect this one and the one the other side, so I can move these rubber blocks back and forth and get them set nicely in the middle. So that was the plan. This was about £1,800, so expensive, but considering what it's capable of doing, lifting 3.2 tonnes, pretty happy with that. Now, what was the problem? So first things first, you can see just how long this thing is, and it actually won't fit in between the wheels of the car. Now that's not a problem when it's built, because I'll move it in at an angle and it'll slide underneath, and I'll be able to push it all the way underneath the body and get under to the chassis, and then I can lift it up properly. But the first thing I wanted to do was put it roughly where the wheels are and support the outer edge of the body here, and then use that to drop. Now, I measured it, but I didn't measure the car with the wheels on, so first problem there. So what did we do? Well, actually, you'll see in the video in a second, I ended up taking the wheels off again and put the chassis back on axle stands, so we'd got it all supported there, and we actually brought the body back in and dropped it on the lift whilst the chassis was still on axle stands. And only when we'd got it down far enough were we then able to pop the wheels back on and get it a bit safer. So approach with caution if you buy one of these. You might end up buying a shorter one. It did, I think, make it easier, but it was a bit fiddly to get it all up and running. So there we go. So let's have a little look at what looks different since we've now put the body on the chassis. So let's have a little nose into the engine bay. So this is the chassis, and we've now got the body sitting over the top. It's not bolted in place yet. Actually, as you can see down here, this is one of the 12 rubber sort of bungs, or not really grommets, but rubber protectors that sit in between the chassis and the body. And this is one of the great things about the Gardner Douglas model, the way they've done this. The body, obviously built in fiberglass, bolts into these, but it's not actually directly in contact with the chassis at any time. So this stops any corrosion, helps keeping the body isolated from the chassis, so you don't get too much in the way of transfer of noise. Really good idea. So we've got 12 of those. I'm just going to try and show you where they all are. So there's obviously one there and one the other side, its counterpart. Come down towards the front of the car. There's one there just above where the engine mountings are, so we've got one of those each side, and then try and get under there to show you the other side. Just down at the front there, that's where the radiator will sit. The front rail isn't on there at the moment, but we'll put that on after we take the body off again. That's the other one. So that's 1, 2, 3 in the engine bay there straight away, so that's 6 of them. There we go, with a bit of a light on there. You can hopefully see where this V drops in here. There's one just behind there, and probably can't really see it down. There's one down there as well. So we're now up to 8, so that leaves 4 at the back, and you can just about make out back there the bolts that the gearbox will sit on. The bolts, the plates as part of the chassis that the gearbox will sit on. So So while we're here in the driver's side rear wheel arch, let's have a quick look at where the roll hoops are actually going to come through to. So just using the light there's one just on this corner here, just at the top there above the spring. That's where the front right part of the roll hoop will go. There's another one just under the opposite side of that spring there, and there's one over this side just up there where the tip of that light is. There's another one there. If I put the light down it's difficult to see, but one there and one there. And what we've got to do, once we've got the body lowered slightly and actually bolted into all of those rubber grommet mounting points that I talked about earlier, then the body will be set, and then I'll actually need to drill through these holes here into the lower part of the body and mark out where the hoops will arrive first, and then we can work our way from there up to the top part of the car on the top of the deck at the back here. And then if we can get those aligned properly, we'll then drill the 3 holes there where the hoops will actually go in, meet through these holes in the bottom here, and then bolt in underneath here nice and strong into the chassis. So first things first, we've got to get the chassis and the body bolted together. I'm just checking around under the car, and despite my best efforts of trying to cover the dolly with plastic and stop any of this horrible liquid rubber stuff sitting on the floor, we've still got a huge great splat down there. So hopefully this stuff will be alright. We'll give that a go and try and clear that up. Right, well that came off easily enough. Excellent, no more splats on the floor. So, body onto the chassis, now we're onto the roll hoops. My goodness, this is the scariest job so far. Really not looking forward to this, but let's see how we go. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.